Paul, thanks for joining me today. We're on our 6th video.
Yes.
In today's video, what we're talking about is the creative process. Over the last few videos, we've explored avoiding people, places, and things, and the value for avoiding people, places, and things. And then out of that, transitioning into experiencing our experiences, having feelings, and what you titled Chapter 3 of recovery, Chapter 1 being choosing recovery, choosing abstinence, Chapter 2 being the development of my life after choosing abstinence, and Chapter 3 being the integration of emotional maturity, emotional sobriety, perhaps. I don't like that phrase, eology at all.
Chapter 3, one thing I've noticed is the need for TMD, a need for a structure of feeling that is not available in recovery right now. The majority of us in recovery stay in Chapter 2 almost forever, because we don't, we see that wall of, this is what I was told is supposed to be life, and that's it. And
yeah, so staying inside of the routine, the structured routine. I have this job, I go to the gym, I hang with these people, and the consequence of that is if COVID hits and you lose access to your meetings and you break into routine, you relapse, or a lot of people relapse, and you've talked to us about that. Or you're in a relationship and the person breaks up with you, or someone dies, or so forth. Life occurs.
Life happens. Yes. Yeah.
And you lose access to your sobriety.
Yeah, exactly. We've never built the skills to deal with life. We've built the skills to deal with routine and to do the same every day and just make sure we're maintaining. And then when life punches you in the fucking nutsack and you're like, holy shit, I only know drugs. I know routine, avoidance, and drugs. And that's how a lot of people live life. And some people will be able to do that forever. Most won't. Most will relapse or find different, addictions, different things. But and for me, it was being dead inside for a couple of years after getting sober, and that was I was stuck, and I'm not the only one. A lot of people, some of you guys who are watching this right now, some people who you might know are going through the same thing, or know somebody who's going through the same thing, and that's a lot of people. We're stuck. We feel like this is it, and there is no idea of Chapter 1 or 2. It's just before sobriety and now, and that's it. And after, my ideas behind Chapter 1, Chapter 2, then 3, 4, 5, 6, and beyond come only because I was able to get through a Chapter 2. And before TMD was introduced to me in the work that I've done in TMD, there was no idea of a Chapter 3. It just wasn't. There was nothing there. Again, there was a wall. That was supposed to be the end, was routine. So that's the importance of TMD in my life and in recovery, is showing people that this is not the end. Just because you're sober and dead inside doesn't mean you're broken or wrong. It means the system isn't built yet to support you. And that's where TMD is now. So we're starting to introduce TMD into sobriety and recovery, and giving people this beautiful creative process to feel and to be safe but unsafe, reasonable but unreasonable, and rational but irrational, and not having stale death in life, but creating. And that's the beauty of Chapters 3 and beyond.
You're participating in the advanced training now. So you've graduated from the intro class, the basic training, and now you're in the advanced training. We just discerned this a minute ago, you're halfway through the advanced training now.
Yeah.
Share with the group how you're doing.
I'm doing, things are making so much more sense now. I had a long time between my basic training ending and the start of this advanced training, and I never went away from TMD. I never went away from my creative process, my devotion to a process, to a community. Really, that's what it was the community and the process. And so all the work that I had been doing between the end of my basic and the start of advanced training was great, powerful stuff. Now it's just even more powerful. Now I'm able to really understand what emotional capacity truly means. I had a great idea before, but now it's something I'm seeing in every part of my life. I'm feeling this emotional capacity. I'm seeing how I show up in the world. I'm seeing how people see me, and not in a nice, let me tell you those pants look great, even though you look like 100 pounds of chewed bubble gum. Someone's gonna tell me, hey, this is how I see you, and this is how the world is, and this is how you present yourself. And this radical honesty for me has been beautiful, something I don't get anywhere else. And I'm only able to accept this now because of the work that I've been doing in the building of my emotional capacity in TMD, and really getting this chance to expand on on the skills that I have and build new ones. It's just,
Okay,
it's a hard process.
translate everything you were just talking about into chapter 1, or traditional recovery, and the creative act of my life. To transition your experiences of participating in the advanced training into the dialogue that we're talking about today.
Okay, so after you get through the chapter 1, you get chapter 2. So for me, the beginning of chapter 3 started when I got through the basic. When I accepted that there could be something more than just being sober and dead. That the creative process of something not 12-step, not just surviving, not just avoidance, and the fact that I was still avoiding. And so that was my basic training, or the intro class for some people, is the introduction to TMD and the building of a window in the wall. It didn't get the wall down. Just knowing that TMD existed didn't bring the wall down, but my acceptance that there could be more, and that acceptance of, maybe I don't have to be dead and sober.
You're talking about prior to participating in the basic.
Yes, yeah. I was still in chapter 2.
Got it. Okay, got it. So prior to participating in the basic, you came to see that there was the possibility of more, or you were open to consider that there was more.
Yes, when I was introduced to something that was more. Before that, there wasn't anything.
I understand. And inside of that experience of considering more, you were in a lot of pain and you were lost.
Yeah.
And didn't know what you didn't know today.
Yeah, without a doubt. There was not even an inkling that there was chapter 1, 2, or anything else. It was just, this is your life now. A miserable, depressed, lost a job, in pain. My migraines were very, uncontrollable, were happening to me. And honestly, it's something I've been open about recently, because I totally actually had forgotten about this as something that had happened. But a week before you had called me, I had planned a year later from that date, a week before you called me, to kill myself. And kind of a backstory, the story about that was, I was so dead, I was so miserable, I was sober, I was, I just lost a job that I thought was my dream job. My migraines had me stuck inside. I was avoiding everything. I had no one in my life that was outside of my family, and I was dead. And there was no idea of a chapter 2 or anything further. It was just my existence was so miserable that I accepted that I would rather take my own life than live like that. And that, scares me today, that there are people out there right now feeling this way. And I'm not okay with just sitting back and letting that happen anymore. I'm not okay with knowing that someone feels that way, knowing how bad that feels and how scary that is to, forget about that. And then very, very recently, another person in my community, in our community, Carly, we were talking about the changes she saw in me, the changes you've seen in me, and how different I am from our first conversation. And I had the realization, like, oh my God, I had forgotten about this date that I had. And I went in my phone and I erased the date from my phone because I had it in my phone for a year from the day we talked, the week before we had spoken. And to know that there are people out there right now either planning this or having these feelings that they're so dead is just, it's not okay. It's not something I'm accepting of, that I can't just do anything about. And that's where my work on these, videos, my work in TMD comes in. Is there is more, right? Without TMD coming into my life and really showing that, there is so much more than just theoretical being okay and sober is all you need, and just avoidance. Without this and the community, I'd still be marching towards that date. And that's a real fucking feeling, right? That's a real thing, that to think, a couple months from now, I had a date to end my life, when now a couple months from now, my vision is, leading people and sharing my story. And that's a very different state of being for me, from, dead by suicide, and as a combat veteran, we already have 22 veterans a day right now, unless that's changed recently. I don't believe it has, but it's 22 veterans a day take their own lives.
Wow.
And so, and that's just the veterans. Never mind the veterans who are addicted to drugs, the people who are addicts or alcoholics,
Oh,
and that's just, that's another number right now. And I live in
overdose.
Nashua. Yeah, I live in Nashua, and we have there was a batch of fentanyl going around that was laced with muscle relaxers or tranquilizers, and it was killing people. Uh, there was, 70 overdose deaths in the last like 2 months between Nashua and Manchester, and that's another thing, right? That's another population that I am a part of that affects me today, still does. And so this is, again, for veterans, for people in recovery, for fucking families, for anyone, obviously, but especially for those populations that I'm affected of with and by and part of. This is why I'm here. Is because, I'm here because of TMD coming into my life and me doing the work, but I'm here to spread this to these populations and really fuck up that 22 a day number and fuck up that 75 overdoses in a couple months. Like, TMD and myself and you and the community have a power that can fuck that number up and
Mhm,
really bring that shit down.
mhm,
And that's my goal and my reason for being here, is to make this long-term lasting effect on my populations and my communities.
mhm. So, wow. First of all, very powerful. I remember that interaction that we had, and my stand for you to transform. Um, I told you, all you got to do is show up, play the game, and everything will be different.
Yeah.
And the thing about that is, maybe you're watching this video and you're thinking that um, I have some kind of magical elixir, you know, process. I don't. It was Paul's commitment to himself and Paul's commitment to doing the work. And um, it's not about believing me, trusting me, following me. It's about playing the game in a way that you move through, barriers to performance, limitations,
Yeah.
limiting belief structures,
Yeah.
continue to explore where we are. Paul, in our video series and our interaction, we're talking about, in our last video, we discussed transition, the transition from avoiding to creating. And so inside this video, we're going to further explore and expand what exists out of transitioning into the creative act of our lives and what we immediately come up against as we begin to take our lives on, what we immediately come up against and what that's like. And so for you, what stands out for me is our, I don't want to say combative, but I like the word combative. I don't want that to mean that, you're bad in any way, but our combative interactions in the past really set forth the type of breakthroughs that you've had today, that we're sharing about. So what we're looking to do in this video is to bring to light, when you step into the creative act and you begin to take your life on, what is it that you're going to come up against? What are the barriers? Like, for example, you're starting to feel.
Yeah.
That's a barrier. If you, let's take running for an analogy. My commitment is to run 25 miles, but when I start running, I can't do a mile. Well, that pain of pressing to run a mile is the same pain that we're going to all begin to experience as we endure our emotional shame or guilt or blindness. You begin to see what you haven't seen. Well, that awareness correlates to feelings that you haven't had. And that's the beginning of moving into, learning how to create our lives.
Yeah, sure.
And so that's what we're dialoguing about today. Another analogy is, if this is anger and my life revolves around avoiding anger, then I can only create my life that exists as a result of avoiding. But the moment I start to have the anger, right, then the whole world opens up of new experiences that I can begin to create as a result of not being afraid of feeling my feelings.
Yeah. It's a great way to put it. Yeah. And, we talk about a lot, and you've introduced the idea of environment. And environment is such a very interesting thing. Is, for myself, a full-time avoider for years, as a person, avoiding was an art form for me for a very long time. And I still have my issues with that, and that's okay, because that's a part of my process of getting to a place where the acceptance and the creative process is more encompassing. But this idea of my environment being a product of avoidance, I need a reason to avoid. I can't just avoid. So something that was kind of subconscious, some conscious decisions, but mostly subconscious, was this idea of being rejected, right, for me. And I always I have this need to be liked, and I have a pretty I have very good emotional vocabulary and understanding about myself and others. Being in a therapist and working in the psychological field, I have to have a knack for this, and so I could see okay, I identify, I have a need to be liked, and I want to be liked. And so that was my thought process. But when in doing this work and realizing my environment, what I was creating was rejection, an environment of rejection. In order to be liked and avoid confrontation, I had to have rejection in my life. And that was something that was just beyond the scope of what I could understand prior to TMD, that my environment was creating rejection for me. I was picking people in my life to reject me. I was pushing people to reject me, and not realizing that all this was happening based on the environment that I was in, but it was proving this point of, see, that's why you need people to like you, Paul. You need people to like you because people are going to leave you. So you need to do more. Or so don't confront, don't feel, don't have raw emotions, don't get mad. You can't be angry. You can't be angry. It can't happen. And that was my fucking life for a very long time, was just this idea of I need to be liked. because people leave me, or it's just that's my survival technique. And working in TMD, working with you, working in this community, I realized I was creating an environment to be rejected. And that idea of environment is something people don't understand. People will come into this work. I came into this work thinking things were happening to me. The world was happening to me. And so when we start feeling and start having these reactions, we go back to that, well, all this stuff is happening to me. And so for us to really understand that there's an environment that we are building that exists to enable and drive addiction or failure, that's when we can start seeing that, maybe we have more control in our lives, or maybe there's more, less on the external, more on the internal. And
let's build what you just talked about.
Okay.
So not to interject, let's do it again. What I want to do is draw out how you got the environment, how you got that distinction. So if we take on one side, if we say what you're talking about is, I want people to like me.
Yeah.
If we say is like me is on one side, what has to be on the other to create like me? If my life's going to be about, I want people to like me, right?
Yeah.
Would you say the other side is people like me?
No, that would be.
Or would you say the other side is rejection? Let's look at this for a minute. If the other side of this model is people like me, then would you need to do like me?
No. There'd
Right.
be no need for it.
There's no need for it, right? So the other side of the model has to be rejection to rationalize the games you play to get people to like you.
Exactly.
Right. So now you have a cycle which supports itself. The more rejection that you have in your life, the more you need to play the games to get people to like you. And the more you play the game, get people to like you, the more you actually drive rejection. Like, if you do attention-seeking behavior, well, in time, that'll piss people off and they're going to leave your ass. So now you're back to rejection. So once you started to see that it isn't people like me in the games I play with regard to that you're addicted to, what you're actually addicted to, and this is the big thing to get, is rejection.
Yeah.
And this is really where you get to have feelings.
Yeah.
The feelings of rejection are a lot bigger than, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's there. The feelings of people liking you. So this becomes, this side of the model actually becomes the emotional addiction. The emotional addiction is over here with the pain and the shame and oh my God, it's so terrible.
Woe is me. Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Now, continuing to look at the model, what you have is the environment in which you operate in, which is the square.
Yep.
So what you've done is you've gone into the world to build an environment where you get to do your games to get people to like you. That drives rejection, and every single person in your life matches this model.
Yeah.
Your work, your self-care, your personal relationships, your family relationships match the model. And then a great way in the past you dealt with this model was physical addiction.
Yeah.
So you have physical addiction transitioning into behavioral addiction, transitioning into
Emotional.
Thank you. Emotional addiction. To all perpetuate the model.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now that you see this, you know, like one, bring people into what was it like for you to get this? And I know you've already talked about it. And what's it like now? Like what's opening up for you in your life now that you see all this?
You know, at the time, I was totally accepting that this was reality. I was like, "Yep, you're right, dude. You're so right. I get it now. No need to argue or prove that you're wrong." Uh, oh wait, nope, nope, my bad, misremembering.
Are you
Yeah,
doing attention seeking again?
I was I was not fucking willing to accept that this was a thing. I was very I had the emotion of anger or resentment, and I had this feeling I need to prove you wrong. I had the thought of proving you
Yeah,
wrong,
right
and
here, right here. I was
yeah,
like, no, your life revolves around rejection, not attention.
yeah. It's like nope. Yes, exactly. The idea of rejection. I'm like, fuck you, dude. I don't like rejection. I
Right,
don't want rejection.
right.
Who wants rejection? And so I was so caught up in the construct that had been built for years and that the only thing I could see was I need people to like me so people don't leave me. That's the
Yeah.
only thing I was able to see. Or more so, I allowed myself to see my program, whatever usage we want to use, but
And your life revolved around that. You know,
that was my
how
environment was,
yeah,
this, but only being able to see the like me part, and then being introduced to the idea of
yeah,
rejection. If I just said to someone, hey, you want people to like you because you're addicted to rejection, of course someone's going to say, what? That's dumb. You're dumb, and I'm not listening. But Pete, when you did, when we worked on this model and going through this stuff, and really walking through these steps, which is so fucking important. That's why I can't just go out and not, no one can go out and just tell someone, oh, TMD's this, and then walk away and they'll get it. It's an experience that you really have to go through. And I'm so glad that you did this model right now, because it's so important for people and myself to see this and walk through it, and understand that, of course, if somebody says I'm addicted to rejection, I'm going to be very resistant because that doesn't make sense. But neither does avoidance of people, place, things, thoughts, feelings, actions for 7 years. But I was doing that, right? And so, unless somebody sees it shows us what we can't see,
yeah,
we're never going to see it. And that's what happened was, Peter showed me this, and of course, my resistance came up of, no, this can't be true. I know what's going on. And that, again, is the broken model trying to fix a broken model. Is the I know it's only because of past experiences and that's it, and I just need to work on those, and really
right.
focusing on just things that I was told before, in recovery and therapy. This is not what we're told about, talked about, or this isn't shown to us in traditional therapy or traditional recovery. And this is where TMD comes in, is we are being shown something that explains further what we can't see, and then we are shown the games we're playing and are able to fight through it, feel it, and really work with someone to get to understand the game. And then, like you said, it's all well and dandy if I fucking see it, but if that's the only thing, the fuck am I'm wasting my time. If
Right.
I'm just gonna see it, well, fucking big deal. The next part is, as my esteemed colleague just wrote, new behavior. Right? That's where that's the part that really is separates TMD from other forms of anything.
Right,
Is
which
the
means you can't do any of this over here. You can't do any of this over here. And it's what your brain's programmed to do for years. So the development of new behavior is really coming from nothing. Like you're not getting it from your past. This construct of new behavior that exists out of identifying I'm addicted to rejection and I play these games for attention isn't going to come from the past, right? It's going to come from your commitment to your transformation. You're literally inventing a new self. Who does Paul choose to design himself to be? It's like accessing the world of imagination to discern who you choose to be. Do you get that?
No. Nope. I'm not tracking that.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me what you're hearing.
That this game is not something to use, and then it leads to new behavior.
How did you access the new behavior?
Mm-hmm. I haven't yet. We haven't. I don't think. Have we talked about how do we access the new behavior?
Well, you're not going to access the new behavior by not doing rejection.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not going to access new behavior by not playing the games, because human beings don't do not.
Exactly. Yeah.
So the identification of new behavior isn't going to come from your past.
So where's it come from?
That's what you're processing. And I was speaking to it a moment ago. See if you can get it. Where's it come from? It's not going to come from the past.
Yeah. It can't.
So right, because this is the past.
Future.
All of this is the past.
There's no present. So we come from the future.
Right. So you're literally, go ahead, say it.
The imagination.
Right.
Said, yeah.
You're literally imagining who you choose to be, and you're living into a designed future.
Okay. So yeah, my thing was I for me, as I'm not understanding how you're getting from, I've realized that rejection now, I getting to the point where I accept now, I'm like, oh wow, rejection is an addiction that I was having. And then now into a new behavior. Rejections wasn't a behavior. So that I think trying to bridge that gap.
Okay, so rejection's not a behavior. Did I get that right?
Yeah. Rejection
is a behavior. As you explore the model, you can begin to see all the ways in which you go about creating rejection.
Okay, so I think that's a good point, right? The creating rejection thing. Okay, that makes sense to me. All right. So yeah.
How do I go about thinking, feeling, speaking, and perceiving that generates rejection? How do I go about playing games that creates people liking me?
Mm-hmm. And then from that, we look ahead to the new future, the new behavior of, what we, who we want to become in our future, and that come from a state of mind.
Right.
Okay. All right. I was lost, dude. It hit me at one point. I was like,
oh, it was so clear for me.
Yeah, it's just like, I get nothing. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it was just I think I was trying to think in the terms of someone who has no idea about this, and then I lost on both accounts. I might have just got mixed up between the two thoughts. So, okay.
Well, yeah, you're getting it at the same time everyone else is getting it. So if you look at then what's possible for you, you would say what?
Creating, that new behavior and that life that is not focused on rejection or people liking me, but acceptance or
see, you just did what I encourage you not to do. So you just invented a future based on not.
Got you. Yep. Based on the like me rejection part.
Which means you're actually still trapped in the same model.
Gotcha. Okay.
If it's coming from what I'm not going to do, then it's still coming from this model. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. What did you drag with you into your future?
The same thing.
The same
behavior.
thing. I'm not going to think of a pink elephant. What are you thinking about? The purple dinosaur.
Elton John. Well, that's my
pink
every.
dragon.
That's just
Don't
gonna.
think about Elton John with the sequel.
Well, that's a trick question. I mean, come on, who's not thinking about Elton John? Exactly. Yeah. No. Exactly. Right. So, a new behavior in the future, is something that not based on our past or that model. It's just based on what we want, or what we can imagine is a future or come from that is.
So stay with the word imagination just for a moment.
Yeah.
And answer the question. So now what's possible for you?
Flight. So
Right. So what's possible for you is what you imagine.
yeah,
So
it's
the
not based on
creative
anything.
act of your life is now built on what you can imagine
Mhm.
versus built on fears
Mhm.
versus built on what not to do. So you're literally following the steps, you're literally transforming your capacity to create your life.
Mhm. Yeah.
And stay with it now that inside of this interaction right now,
Mhm.
you accessed not.
Mhm.
Which would say this is bad and wrong, which would say not to do this. But here's the reality. The personality that you built out of playing this game can provide a lot of value for people in the world. You have charisma, you get people to like you, you stand in front of the room, people listen, you work with your clients and are successful as an addiction counselor as a result of building this personality.
Yeah.
So the possibility is you could reframe something you said to me in the past to acknowledge you. You can reframe this construct from an identity to a behavior that you use. So now you're using strong points as a vehicle to build an intended future
Mhm.
versus as a vehicle to alienate yourself from people.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. That's and I think that's something that is people will again build this thought process and environment to discount new things, or especially something like TMD. I can easily come up with, well, fucking, I've been trying to be a new person forever based on nothing. That doesn't make sense. You really can, shoot it all down by saying, this new person idea, or just waking up someone different, or just changing everything, where that's not, we're not saying, in my interpretation of TMD, is no one's saying change. Change is not a thing. We are making these new choices, and this coming from in a future based on what we want, our imagination, our drives, and then really using all the shit we have, but not like you said, making it our who we are. We have that.
Wait, stay
Someone in
with it. So what's the thing you're confronting the moment you enter into the creative aspect of your life? What is
is
the
it that
first thing you're going to come up against?
Avoidance or feelings, fear,
Right.
change, and we're
Stay with it. And so, and who is identifying that the feeling you're coming up against is good or bad? Who is identifying
programming,
your identity?
your identity. Okay, do it again. Yeah, got you. Yeah, I mean your identity. So okay, are we using programming? Like
I mean,
the verb.
your programmatic identity,
Okay.
meaning the identity that's been built over time, the identity of who you think you are, programmatic way of operating. Paul,
Gotcha.
take the analogy, take this model that we developed here, and begin to see that this is who you thought you were. This is a construct of your identity.
Yep.
I don't know if you can see, I'm moving tools. you could say that oh, let's put it up top.
Yeah.
If this is who you think you are, what we're talking about is identity.
Yes, exactly. Yep. Okay. I'm tracking. Yeah. This is my entire world was built on this is who I am. This is my this is where I'm presenting myself, showing the world. Uh, that was
To
my
build
identity.
new behavior, I mean, following the model, if this box is a representation of who you think you are, and we're talking about inventing a future that's not based on the past, but rather is based on your imagination and what you truly think is possible, what we're talking about is the transformation of one's identity.
Mhm.
This construct here, exists as a result of transforming the identity.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we believe we are, what's happened to us. We see the world through our identity, which is from trauma, which is from our past, which is from what we think is happening, and our interpretations. It's all it's how we see the world. It's what we're, how we see ourselves in the world, and that's all built on shit that's our interpretations of our past, our interpretations of all this, and through the lens of other lenses, and it's so
Well, it's
fucking
built on who we think we are. It's like
yeah.
the guy who's controlling and domineering will say something like, "You're not respecting me," or the woman who's a victim and lives her life as the identity of a victim will say, "No one's there for me."
Mm.
And so the problems in our life exist entirely out of who I think I am.
Yeah, it's that.
Some people need to work on the explosive anger. Some people work on the enabling constructs. Again, all exist out of the identity.
Yeah, yeah. When people are asked to identify themselves, or how would you, state your identity, it's pretty interesting the answers people give. I always like the question about if you, explain your identity to a T without leaving anything out.
I'm a
Uh,
lawyer.
okay, lawyer.
I'm a
That's it.
mom or a dad.
Okay, so
I'm a
lawyer, mom,
man.
questionable. Okay,
I'm a woman.
thank you.
I prefer she and
Yeah.
her.
Okay. So that's it then. That's all you are. A
Well,
lawyer
I'm
mom.
fat.
Okay.
No,
So
I'm getting
fat
skinny.
lawyer mom. So a fat lawyer mom who wants to get skinny. That's it.
Who's getting skinnier? Yes.
So there's nothing else about you that fills your identity.
I
Okay.
have got a lot of money. Oh no, I need more.
Oh, okay. So now we're okay. So a lot of physical things outside of you, and then that's just on the outside. Then go on the inside to what people think they are. It's like, oh well, I'm a Pisces, and I'm a fucking,
Virgo.
I'm one of those, the personality tests I took. I'm a ASVP, outgoing introvert that's introverted but outgoing, all this shit, and it's like, how the fuck are you supposed to keep track of all this shit? It's just so many fucking identities, and there's so much shit that you got to do. It's such convoluted bullshit that we go through to explain something that doesn't really need to be explained.
Well, it isn't who you are.
It's not even fucking close. Like I said, like if you tried to explain from a person who's still in this construct everything about your identity, you'd never fucking finish because it's not who you are. Every answer is trying to get closer to this idea of the construct of who you think you are, but that's not enough because my trauma. I'm also a victim, but I'm not a victim. I'm a survivor, and so you're stuck behind this veil and these goggles of bullshit. And I was stuck fucking years about this. Yeah, I'm a combat veteran who's broken and fat and need people to love me, and I can't get out of my own way, but I'm smart. I'm better than you, but I'm not because I'm a piece of shit. It was just exhausting. Fuck, that's exhausting. It's exhausting listing them. never mind fucking living them.
I'm an
Fuck.
addict. Right.
Oh, we don't even get started on that. We'll be here for another month. It's so much shit, and none of it's who I am
Right.
at all. I'm not any of that, and that's a big issue I have with recovery in a lot of these places that say you need to stand in front of a room and tell everyone, my name is Paul and I'm an addict. Like the idea that you're embedding yourself as just an addict when you are so much more, or and not even just that, and you're not even the things you think you are. I find it very disgusting to perpetuate the idea that you have to admit to an identity that other people say that you have to admit to.
Look, I hear your resentment towards 12 steps and the identification of being an addict.
What? I never said 12 steps.
It shows up just a smidgen as we interact. It's hard to see. Most people would have missed it.
Yeah. Thank you for calling that out.
I just had it, clearly identified. The piece that I'm going to add to that,
yeah,
is in the beginning, there's value to identifying the aspect of the identity that's dictating our behavior, which is I'm an addict.
Yeah.
And as we've discussed, if you're going to stay trapped in that identity, then that identity can begin to sabotage your ability to create your life. Like, because I think I'm an addict, I don't get to take risks, or because I think I'm an addict, I'm a failure, or because I think I'm an addict, I can't do X, Y, and Z. Now that identity has transitioned into becoming a barrier to performance, whereas initially it was a value that drove sobriety. Mm-hmm. So initially it drives sobriety, then it turns into a barrier. And now transformational mind dynamics can begin to help people transform their relationship to identity, which actually then empowers long-term sobriety.
Without doubt. I think, a very important part is the difference between noticing that it's a part of your identity and compounding it by repeating it forever. Or even at the beginning, standing in front of a group of people saying it. I just don't believe there's a positive in that. I think it's like the other stuff, right? You need to know you're an addict. As first step, I agree. You have to admit that you are an addict, that you are, you have this, issue, but, the idea that it's such a major part of you that I'm not going to say like, well, I'm a Pisces and an addict or whatever. Just seems as convoluted as horoscopes. But just me.
So look, looking at today's interaction, we're looking at exploring, right? Talking about exploring the creative act. And so it's choosing the creative act over avoiding. And the moment that occurs, what you come up against ultimately is who one thinks they are.
Yeah. Which
is the identity. And so we have an internal identity, something like I'm worthless. And you have an external identity like I'm funny, or people like me, or I'm smart, or whatever it might be.
Great hair.
I have great hair. And so that identity becomes a limitation, or an opportunity to discern the boundaries of the identity.
Yeah.
And as you explore the boundaries of your identity, you begin to see that, one, it's a created construct, which then sets in motion the opportunity to design who you choose to be, in relationship to the goals that you choose to create in your life. Who do I have to be to go about building the life I choose to live?
Yeah.
Now the creative act is being used. The creative act, my goals are now being used as a vehicle to drive my personal transformation. So I'm doing twofold, right? I'm transforming myself and achieving the goals of my life. Yeah. And this is where you're headed. You're moving into the third course, where in time, a couple of weeks, where you go about inventing a life. Who does Paul choose to be? And you've already shared with the group that you've taken steps in that direction.
Yeah. So, recently I was having a basic bitch brunch with my basic bitch Carly, who was a member of our community who, I love so much. And another person who's starting to really integrate herself in the community and starting basic training soon, the basic training course here, Kat. And I've been, I got sober through certain means with methadone. And methadone is a very volatile topic in recovery, and a lot of people have very varying views on it. So I actually not sure what this has to do with identity.
Okay, so about one of the powerful positions that you're choosing to take on in your life that's existing as a result of identifying who you've programmed yourself to be and how that programmatic construct has created your life in the past. What we're talking about is your identity, who you think you are. So who you think you are in the past, I'm an addict, I'm a wounded warrior, and as a result of that, you were stuck in that pain and suffering, etc. We talked about a model that you found that you do, which is gaining attention and unconsciously creating rejection.
Yeah.
So out of seeing that, what I believe you began to see is who's creating your pain.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, well yeah, that me is,
So now you create your pain. You've had a breakthrough in migraines, so which means you have less pain in your life.
Yeah, because
you have more aliveness in your life.
Choosing them, yes.
And this is real for you now. I'm not creating this. You're creating a breakthrough in being alive.
100%. Yeah.
So what choices are you making now as a result of feeling alive in your life that you didn't have access to making in the past?
Well, I mean, there's one, committing to people in a community, making agreements, sticking to them, doing this shit. My opportunities that I'm creating now, reaching out to, the VA or just other organizations, people, showing up in the world as someone who takes a stand for transformation, things like that. Yeah.
What else?
Some, looking at my own self-care needs and health is another. I don't get what about it? What, I don't understand the connection here. I've been open about methadone in the past. Like I've done a lot of public work about methadone stigma. Like getting off of it?
Well, would you say there's a connection between the aliveness you're feeling and the consideration of stopping methadone?
Gotcha. Okay. Jesus, fuck, just say it. We can edit this shit out, you dick. God damn, dude. Making me fucking work for it. I
was operating from an expectation that there were more than two brain cells fighting each other.
No. That's your interpretation.
I thought it was so fucking clear. Look, everything I said anyway. See how
I thought you were referencing a conversation about like just talking about it. I'm like, I talk about it. I'm open about it. But yeah, the next steps of, okay, all right. Yeah, of course. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I would want to talk about it. So, it's a great point, Pete. I'm very glad you brought that up. So yeah, I mean, all the stuff that I've been creating in my life, the migraines is the biggest. That idea that migraines weren't happening to me. I was creating a pain that was visceral, that was fucking real. Like the pain of migraines, if anyone's ever had one, if anyone's had a headache, they know it hurts. A migraine, causes me to throw up. Like, not because I'm sick, because of my pain. Like, that's insane. And so this construct that it's happening to me, it's my TBI from being, bloated up overseas, all this shit was how I lived my life for a long time until I realized doing this work that was part of my identity was it's happening to me. That was my false construct of that identity. And so doing this work and realizing I was the one causing rejection, like on that model. I was the one causing this pain, and a very hard fight with you over the idea of my migraines being caused by me or chosen. Uh, and then really opening up and accepting something different, and then finding out that yes, they were. I was choosing, it wasn't like I want this migraine. It was, I'm choosing not to engage my feelings. I'm choosing to avoid my emotional reactions and avoid confrontation, which then lead to migraines, which then I can use to further avoid. And so, all this stuff started happening. And then this idea behind, pain and the choice that we make, really started to resonate with me in other ways. And so, because, for those of you who don't know, in this realm, in other realms of my life, people are aware that I am on methadone. I've been on methadone for my sobriety. I was tapering for a while off of methadone. And for those of you who don't know, methadone it's a replacement therapy, an opioid replacement therapy. It's one of the longest known replacement therapies. Great success with it, as I'm a living proof of success with it, being sober, anyways. And so I was tapering, and a few years ago I stopped tapering, or a year ago, because of my migraines. Um, I didn't know if they were associated, and so I really just, my life stopped because of the migraines. Now, after doing this work in TMD, doing this work with Pete and my community, and realizing that my migraines were caused by me, chosen by me, not external matters, I've been able to look at other changes and other choices in my life, that can lead to a healthier existence. And one of them is starting to taper, and the choice to come off of methadone, um, and to feel safe enough in not feeling safe enough, and knowing that I'm building the emotional capacity to be afraid, to be scared, to be mad, and that's fucking okay. Like that wasn't my life 6 7 months ago, right? My life was, it's not okay to be scared. It's not okay to be not okay, right? And that's something I still cope with. But now I have this choice that's presented to me, and I'm choosing to take control of my health again, my journey, and that's something that didn't come from just joining TMD and sitting around waiting for things to change. It came from joining TMD and choosing and putting the work in, really engaging and seeing that my pain was controlled by my choices and my avoidance. And you choose the opposite. You choose to engage. You choose to, I chose to engage. I chose to uh, really feel things and expand that emotional capacity. And now I'm at a place where I'm engaging my recovery in a different way, and it's more empowering this way too.
Yeah, you're choosing. You're starting to show up and create. So you're making choices that exist as a result of transforming your identity.
Yeah, I'm not a broken victim. I'm not my PTSD. I'm not my addiction. I'm not methadone. I'm not all of these things. I'm my identity, and this new construct of my life is choice.
Yeah, that's what I really wanted people to get. I'm committed to people getting that they can transform their lives. And the first step in the transformation of oneself is the understanding of identity, who I think I am, and the ways in which this belief structure sabotages my ability to create my life. And it's not about changing, it's about seeing. So where Paul and I are exploring the nature of identity, uh, the limitations associated with identity, and then what truly becomes possible for people as we get that I am not who I think I am. I'm not my past. I'm not my trauma. I'm not my beliefs. I'm not what I have. I'm not what I don't have. We arrive at I am who I choose to be.
Oh, very good. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was great. Yeah, I think that's something that people need to hear, is that everything you just said was, that first step is that realizing the construct of identity, but that's a powerful. I don't think that's you can understate that. That's great. The choice is who you choose to be. Sorry for interrupting the flow, but it hit me. It was really good. It's so true.
Well, you're
So
doing the work to get that. I mean, you are currently inside of um, releasing yourself from who you think you are, and you're experientially arriving at that. I have the capacity, ability, commitment to design myself, and what I'm going to encourage you to do is to design yourself out of imagining what's truly possible for yourself, others, and what others can create in their lives, and to forge yourself into being, to forge yourself into this design set in motion by you, not by my trauma, not by my past. Our next talk, I'm looking at our script here, is getting that I'm not my identity. And a lot of what we discussed today is that notion, I am not who I think I am.
Mhm. Yeah, really taking that power away from who I thought I was, who I think I am, the things that have happened, things that haven't happened, like you said, the things you have or don't have, really taking that power away from words. I mean,
Well,
I'm
beliefs.
yeah, and I'm excited to really get into that next video. Is really getting into the idea of the power we put into what's happened, what we think, what we believe, what we see, what we don't see, and really understanding that by itself, it's fucking nothing. It's air, it's vibrations that we pick up with our eardrums, that we turn into fucking pain and excuses to use and bullshit upon bullshit. And I'm excited to really get into that. That's great.
Yeah, you are it. I mean, what makes this video series so great for me is seeing your progression as you go through the series. And I mean, you're coming out of, I could say you are a counselor, right? Which would be the identity, or you have worked with people, you have transitioned through addiction yourself, and you're working with people who were transitioning
Yeah.
through behavioral, physical addictions, heroin, et cetera.
Yeah.
So that your experiences is, for me, what makes this video series so powerful for other people. In today's interaction, it seemed like you got lost inside of the invention of who you choose to be because it hasn't occurred yet.
Yeah. I think it's important for people to see that, we're still going to have stumbles here and there. It's not,
And the
we're not
first thing
silly.
you said was not, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you brought it up earlier of, there's no elixir. You're not selling an elixir, right? You're not selling some cure. And it's important for people to realize that, I'm not a fucking salesman. I've never fucking, when I was an addict, I tried to be a Kirby salesman at one point, the vacuum,
Yeah,
because like they would hire anyone. And I
those are
remember
great.
like, it was terrible. I hated it. I hated that job. And so I didn't sell anything. I'm not a salesman. So, it's important for people to hear that we're not, I'm not selling snake oil or a promise or a cure or anything. What I'm selling you is, for those of you who are watching, I'm selling my experience. And this is my experience. Right? This is what TMD means to me. And my experience in my life prior to TMD is many people watching this. We have a lot of the same experiences, and there's possibilities of this behavioral and emotional work that is not available elsewhere.
Right.
And really that, just like sobriety, I'm going to struggle with, my food addictions, not instead of heroin or things like this. Same thing here is, yeah, it's not like you're going to get it, never turn back and never have to have a struggle again. If someone's selling that, fucking buy it and tell me where to buy it. That'd be fucking great, right? Oh, that's great. No one sells that. And that's important that people hear that all my great experiences came from, like you said, me. Like I'm working through this. And for, all these great experiences come from a lot of pain and a lot of hard work.
Mhm.
And it's a beautiful process that you get to really experience. And that's it's an important thing that I keep hearing a lot is some people said, like, it's too good to be true, or you're saying all these great stuff. You guys saw today that I was,
Is that right?
well, yeah. I remember one of our intro courses, I was talking about all the good stuff, and even people who, when we hear testimonials from other people in my cohort or other cohorts talk about all this great stuff, people are like, all right, like you're making it sound like everything's perfect. And that's just not the case, right? It's real. It's not perfect, it's not terrible, it's real. It's what you make of this. And even the hard parts are good parts and bad parts. There's no, it's just experiences. That's what I really want people to hear is, as you saw me kind of not get it and then come from not, that's fine. Like that's the beauty
Yeah.
of this process
Yeah.
is,
Yeah. Yeah.
oh, fuck what? Like
Right.
I needed to hear that and I heard it and now I'm getting it and I'm, it's another experience that I build on.
Yeah. If anyone said you were slow, you're
They
right.
obviously have only seen me run. Or as my coach used to say, Candy, you have square wheels. I was like, oh, yeah, I get that. I get that. Yeah,
So it's always a pleasure. It's great, and we'll see if how people experience the video and choose to come play the game.
definitely. Please
Anything
reach
you want
out
to
to us.
say?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah, reach out to us. Even if it's not about anything specifically. If you hear something that resonates, my email's down there. Pete's email's down there. Fucking reach out to us and just talk. Get in touch with us. A few people reached out in the past and gotten some really interesting feedback on just where people are, and I love that. I love people. I've always loved people, and I always will. I'm doing this for my transformation and yours, and I really hope that whoever is hearing this hears my sincerity and gets how much I really truly care about whoever is watching this, and the fact that you're whoever you are. There's people out there that can be of assistance, and that there is, if anyone is listening who has planned their suicide date the way I did, something, whether it's us or anyone, just fucking reach out to someone, please. I wouldn't be able to experience this if I had chosen to do it or date sooner. So really, my impact on the number 22 is gonna be real, but for right now, reach out to us. And thank you, Pete, for making a program that is a curriculum process that is real and not just theory, and that has changed my life. And like I said, a week before you called, that's where I was. I'm not fucking there anymore, and that's because of your intervention in my work.
Mm-hmm.
And I really I owe a lot to your commitment to me, and I really can't understate the community that you've created for me, with me. Has saved my life. So thank
Woo!
you.
You
Thank you.
got it. My pleasure. Yeah. And we're just getting started.
Fuck yeah, dude.
Yeah. I'm complete.
Same here. Thank you guys.